Hi, this is The Quest, a cumulative case for God's existence. We have gone through four uh, distinct and individual arguments having to do with a transcendent source of various things. And this is the conclusion to bring it all together. We looked at the origin of the universe and we saw a transcendent source there. Right? We decided that objective moral values and duties do exist and that there's a transcendent source for them. Next, we saw that rational awareness is non-material and there is a transcendent source for that. And then we saw that spiritual experience is veridical and we saw a transcendent source for that. So you see the pattern. Pattern is to establish that something is true and then argue from effect to cause. What must be the case for this to exist? And as I'm sure you'll not be surprised that I think all four of these arguments are really, really strong arguments. I would not know how to argue against them. However, if you're dead set to deny this argument, you have to think about it. Here's your two alternatives. Here's a couple of alternatives you have if you want to find a way to get this. First, you can deny the main assertions. For the origin of the universe, you can say that it's a cyclical universe that has lasted forever. Or you can say it just popped into existence. Both of those are very weak. For objective morals, you can say that there are no objective moral values and duties. That is all subjective and intersubjective moral values. For rational awareness, you could say that our awareness, although it seems to be non-material, it really is material. In fact, it's strictly material, materialistic reductionism. Or it's material with a little epiphenomenon cloud above the materiality, which is the recipient of information about what's going on, but not an actor. And for spiritual experience, you can say that it is just a materialistic universe, and that spiritual experience is not veridical ever, under any circumstances, under any conditions, because you know that all exists is matter and energy and motion. I think to take these views, I mean, there may be some other options too, but I think to take any of these options would be, frankly, absurd. Would make no sense. It would be something that a person who is objective would not decide to do. It would only be if you're trying really hard to escape this. The other method, which is possible, is to accept one or more, and we can do this individually, to accept all of the premises, the points that are made about the origin of the universe, and there's objective moral values and duties and whatnot, but then to deny that there's a transcendent source for them. For instance, for the origin of the universe, you could say that the universe just popped into existence out of nothing, by nothing, for nothing. Since nothingness has no causal efficacy, that is an illogical thing to posit, to say. They call it the most impossible thing in the world, but you could say that. Another one you could say is that, yes, there are objective moral values and duties, but there's no transcendent source for them. It's just a brute fact. It just is. That's a just because explanation. I've looked at that as carefully as I can, and I see no reason to believe it. I see every reason not to believe it. So that would be difficult to do, but you could do that. And I don't know what the argument would be for rational awareness that doesn't have a transcendent source. It would just be just because. And spiritual experience the same way. It's just because. In fact, there'd be no explanation for any of this. Everything would be just because, just because, just because, just because. Now, to me, that is really a desperation method. I don't know how a person could do the better way. Remember that this is a cumulative case. If you take away two of these arguments and two of the arguments go through, then a lot has been established. It's not going to fall apart if one thing falls apart. Here is a futuristic design of a suspension bridge that where it is mutually supporting in a variety of different ways, and that's what this kind of cumulative case. Sometimes it's called converging evidence too. Evidence converging independently on one. Now, if all four of these go through, they look obviously like one transcendent source with four different aspects to it. That's, to me, it is inescapable. I can't help but think that this is one source. We have, for the cosmos, we have the creator of the physical realm having unimaginable power. In the moral realm, it is essentially good, right, and just, the fountain of love, a personal being, because it has to be able to tell what's right or wrong. The standard of what's right or wrong, the power that moves us to be like him in love also, and the source of all virtues such as courage, patience, and persistence. There is a transcendent source aspect of mind, where this being is rationally aware, an intelligent personal being, and also an acting agent. And of spirit, the creator of the spiritual realm, the source of creaturely connection with the divine and the divine itself. This description is a terrific description of the traditional notion of God. If you've proven one transcendent source that has all of these attributes, you've proven that God exists. All right, because this is so important, I will try to answer the person who says, well, why is it one source and not four sources? First of all, there's a synergy of function, right? You have a being creating the physical universe. You have a being giving all that's good and is the paradigm of what's good. You have a being providing all the intelligence in reality. And you have a being who connects us to itself by experience, right? All of these are ultimate beings. How many ultimate beings can you have? It seems to me that the person who creates the physical universe has the cachet, the gravitas, to tell us what's what, to tell us what's good. And who else would have would be the source of all intelligence, right? And why wouldn't the creator of the physical universe of what's seen also be the creator of the spiritual realm, what is not seen? And so that's why it's intuitively obvious. Second, I have given you four arguments and developed them in as much detail as I can. I could have given you more arguments if I was smarter and if I knew more. I know of 3 design arguments that I could have brought to the table, but I don't know enough about science, and I don't feel confident that I could honestly say I understand these and would be able to present them. The 3 arguments are, I know what they are. One is an argument from the initial constants of the universe. Another one is specified complexity. Another one is irreducible complexity. But I don't bring those. Also, there's an argument from prophecy that is just dying to be brought out. And there is a Gary Habermas type argument from near-death and death experiences, which could be a supplemental argument. That would bring it up to 10. Are you going to say now that there are 10 sources, transcendent sources, just because my number happened to be 10? What if you deny 3 of them and 7 of them go through? Are you going to say there's 7 beings that are transcendent beings? How can the number of transcendent sources of the universe depend upon my ignorance and your willingness or refusal to accept the evidence that is presented? That'd be crazy. So what is the number? Well, I don't know. It looks like 1. Another thing we could do is that if a person was really obstinate about this and wanted more proof, we could bracket this congealing of the 4 sources into 1, assuming that there are four sources that we can work with. We can bracket this and wait for other things, because there are more arguments to be made about the nature of God. We haven't even talked about Christian stuff yet. That's fine. And speaking of Christian stuff, what we could do is we could say, well, why don't we just make these 3 sources? One of them is the Lord of moral values. One of them is the creator of the universe and the ultimate source of rationality, and the other one is the Spirit. And we'll call them the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now, if that's what you want, that would be fine, because there's 3 persons. That would 3 sources, 1 being maybe, but 3 persons. If you want to go there, I think that's taking us to Christianity too quickly. I don't think you can prove a Trinitarian structure out of this, but maybe this means you can. I think it's safer to go with the 1 source rather than try to force it into this pre-Christian bed, as Montgomery used to say. For this, what we've done is only one part of a cumulative of a bigger cumulative case, and this is only the cumulative case I know about. We have done the 4 things in blue: the origin, moral, rational consciousness, spiritual experience. But there are also others, including the historical evidence about Jesus. And so I hope that you'll take a look at the other arguments and the other information as soon as I have it available. And I want to say that many of these arguments are things that I have not known until the last few years. Most of my life, I dismissed the arguments for the existence of God because I thought they were weak. I didn't understand them very well. I didn't understand any modern formations of them, and I just didn't even consider them. And then I heard Bill Craig in debates use the first 2 of my arguments, and that's how I learned about them. And then I added more stuff as I went along. I invite you to engage in the quest. This is the quest for meaning, the quest for understanding the world we live in, understanding what our lives are all about. There's a big difference between a world that is just all matter and energy in motion. As Dawkins said, the universe is about what you would expect of it. There is no purpose. There's no good, no evil, no right, no wrong. Just a pitiless indifference. There's a difference between that world and a world where a God of love and goodness and rationality and spirituality and immense power created everything and is reaching out to us. And if you don't know that, then you should probably find out. Would be the smart thing to do. And one way to find out is to examine the evidence. Not to believe because somebody told you or because you heard it somewhere, but to really engage and wrestle with the arguments fairly. And you may find that your lifestyle is interrupted if there's a God. You may find that you can't do some of the things that you want to do. But hey, you need to adjust your life to reality rather than to what you want. So you should not be afraid of the quest. You might have a chance to learn something new. One thing that I would say about this line of argumentation here is, once you've seen this, I don't see how you could say that the person who believes in God does so on the basis of a blind leap of faith, which is believing something in the face of evidence, or that Christians need to check their brains at the door to get into their church, or that there is no evidence for the existence of God, not a shred of evidence. I've heard that many times. They even use the word shred. It would be more honest for people to say, look, there is a lot of evidence for this. There are a lot of good reasons for it. Excuse me, but I've looked at them all. I've looked at them carefully. I've looked at the evidence. I've looked at the reasoning, and I have found holes in it. And I found it not only not to be compelling, but I found that there is a way to deny all of this, which makes way more sense. That person I would respect. But the person who thinks I'm just too smart to believe this stuff, who doesn't even know the first thing about it, that's not something that's very good. So I would encourage you to know about it, and to learn about it, and to consider this for yourself. This is not something for you just to say, oh, well, I learned this one time. This is for you to use as a springboard to find out for yourself whether it's true or not. All right, thank you.